Welcome, curious minds, to the deep dive. Today, we're embarking on one of humanity's most profound and really universal quests. It's the search for meaning, the nature of the self, and, the very essence of ultimate reality. Have you ever just paused to wonder about the fundamental fabric of existence? Or what lies beyond what we can typically perceive or measure or logically explain in our daily lives? Well, we're about to plunge headfirst into a really rich tapestry of spiritual and philosophical texts. We're talking ancient wisdom traditions, more modern revelations, all to explore these profound and, let's be honest, often perplexing questions.
Absolutely. And our mission in this deep dive really is to distill some truly profound insights on, well, self, spirit, and ultimate reality from these incredibly varied traditions. Think of it maybe as a shortcut, a way to grasp humanity's ongoing, very complex quest for knowledge and connection, what has driven seekers for, well, millennia. What's truly fascinating, and I think we'll really see this unfold, is how the very idea of truth or ultimate reality isn't static at all. It's constantly being shaped, shaped by human seeking, evolving with our understanding and our deepest needs. Sometimes these ideas converge, sometimes they diverge, but they're always pointing towards something beyond the immediate.
Exactly. We often look for answers in familiar places or within our own cultural frameworks. It's natural. But this deep dive, it gathers wisdom from across millennia and continents. And we're going to uncover some surprising convergences, maybe some challenging perspectives that might reframe your entire understanding of what it means to be alive and to seek. This journey is curated specifically for you, the listener. We're drawing out key nuggets of knowledge, things that can resonate deeply, and maybe offer a fresh lens through which to view your own inner journey. So let's dive in. Okay, let's unpack this first big piece. When we talk about the ultimate reality, the divine, in many traditions, they really grapple with describing something that, well, by its very nature is often considered indescribable, something that sort of transcends all our categories. How do these different sources even approach this almost unfathomable source of everything?
Yeah. That's a central challenge, isn't it? And we find this recurring theme of profound transcendence, a sense of something utterly beyond our usual grasp, yet fundamentally real, foundational. Plotinus, for instance, in his really influential work, The Enneads, gives us this powerful image of the One. He describes it as prior to all existence. It transcends intellect, motion, even being itself. And saying it transcends being, that suggests it's not a being among other beings, but the ultimate ground, the source from which all being, all existence flows. It doesn't need anything, utterly self-sufficient. It's his fundamental reality, the source, but beyond any attributes we can possibly conceive or name. It's the origin point, but not something you can wrap your head around conceptually.
Right. So it's not something you can just pin down or slap a label on. It's like Rizé, like trying to describe the canvas that holds all the paintings, but the canvas itself doesn't have a specific image. That makes so much sense when you think about the limits of our language. It really brings to mind the Tao Te Ching, that suggestion that the Tao doesn't act in a way we understand it, yet it's the root of all action, the source of all creation. This idea of nameless simplicity. How can something, not act but still be the source of everything?
That's the beautiful paradox, isn't it? That Tao doesn't act in the sense of, say, conscious will, deliberate intervention like a human might act. Instead, it embodies this principle of spontaneous unfolding, an intrinsic pattern maybe, an effortless flow that governs the cosmos. It's just the inherent nature of things to be as they are. The way a river flows or a tree grows without conscious effort from the river or the tree itself. This nameless simplicity, it suggests a fundamental, unadorned truth beneath all the complexity, an intrinsic order that doesn't need pushing or pulling. It's like the invisible current, maybe. The generative silence that makes all sound possible.
That deepens it considerably. And then in a more direct, almost intimate conversational style, you have conversations with God. It offers a remarkably similar idea, describing God not as a person, but as pure energy. It's portrayed as this dynamic breathing in and breathing out of the entire universe, constantly expanding and contracting. And this divine essence, this energy, it isn't limited to a specific form or place. It's everywhere. In every flower, every rainbow, every star. Critically, it's not limited to just humanity or one planet. That radically expands our sense of the divine, doesn't it? Far beyond anthropocentric views. It suggests an all-pervasive life force.
Precisely. The universe itself becomes the manifestation of this divine energy's activity. It's inhalation and exhalation, you could say. And what's truly fascinating here is how we see this same kind of idea echoing even in Western mystical traditions. Take the Cloud of Unknowing, that medieval Christian mystical text. It pushes us to move beyond specific thoughts or intellectual concepts of God. It encourages a practice of naked intent and entering a meek darkness, a deliberate letting go of all our mental images and ideas about God. The text describes God as super essential, super sublime, super everything that can be named. Now, that isn't a denial of God, not at all. It's a profound recognition that any concept we form is just too small, too limited. It's about entering a space of unknowing, trusting that maybe in the absence of our mental constructs, a deeper, non-conceptual connection can emerge.
It's almost like saying the more you try to define it, the further you get from its true boundless nature. Wow. And this resonates in non-dual traditions too, doesn't it? The Upanishads, those ancient Hindu scriptures, they offer a powerful parallel, though maybe from a slightly different angle. They describe the ultimate self, the Atman, not as our limited ego, but as dustless, beyond space, unborn, great, steadfast, the controller, ruler, and overlord of all. The profound insight there is that your deepest, most authentic self isn't just connected to the divine. It is the divine, an ultimate boundless reality already within you that really challenges the whole notion of a separate, limited ego. It collapses the distance between the seeker and the sought.
And that's a radical proposition for many people, isn't it? That the ultimate reality isn't just out there somewhere, but intrinsically is us at our deepest core. It's not a personal God in the way we usually think of it, maybe, but the very essence of being. Pure consciousness. If Atman is Brahman, the individual soul is the universal soul, then the seeking isn't about reaching some external deity. It's about realizing an inherent internal truth. That's a crucial distinction, I think. It really elevates the whole spiritual journey.
And you might be thinking, okay, what does this abstract concept mean for me in my everyday life? How can I possibly apply something so beyond definition? Well, these ideas, they challenge our everyday definitions. They invite us to look beyond the surface of things, to question our assumptions about what's real and how we perceive it. It encourages a shift, maybe, from rigid, concrete definitions to a more expansive, mysterious understanding, one that might make room for experiences beyond the purely intellectual. It suggests that if you start from this kind of premise, your entire worldview might start to reconfigure itself. Okay, shifting gears just a bit. Many texts also speak of a more intimate presence of the divine. It's not just a distant, unknowable force that maybe created everything and then stepped back, right? There's also this sense of connection, of the divine being deeply intertwined with our existence, not just transcendent, but immanent, present. How do these sources speak to this closer, more personal experience?
Indeed. It's definitely not solely about transcendence. There's also this profound immanence, the divine inhabiting our world and ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, gives us that classic Stoic advice. Look inwards. Within is the fountain of good, which is ever springing up if you be always digging in it. Now, this isn't just poetic language for the Stoics. This fountain of good is our inner reason, our guiding principle, which they saw as a spark of the divine universal reason permeating the cosmos. It points to an inherent goodness, a divine spark within each individual. It suggests the divine isn't just out there, but deeply integrated into our very being, a source of moral and spiritual guidance always available, if we make the effort to connect.
And that connects beautifully, doesn't it, to Swami Vivekananda's powerful statement. You find it cited in William James's The Varieties of Religious Experience about not needing to look for God outside. Vivekananda boldly declared, "It is your own heart beating. I am thee and thou art me."
Oh yes, that's just stunning.
It's such a profound statement of non-dualistic immanence. It collapses the distance between the self and the divine, making it this intimate, pulsating reality right here within us. It's really an invitation to recognize the divine in our own life force, in our very consciousness, rather than seeking it in external temples or rituals. A radical call to self-recognition.
And this raises a really important question for many spiritual paths, doesn't it? If the divine is within, then what's the role of external perception or devotion? The Bhagavad Gita, a central Hindu scripture, addresses this directly. It emphasizes that the supreme personality of Godhead Kon isn't directly perceivable through our, let's say, gross material senses. Our eyes, ears, minds, they're conditioned by the material world, so they can't just grasp the spiritual. Instead, Kano is revealed through bhakti yoga, pure devotional service. And this isn't a passive waiting game, it's an active, cultivated spiritual vision. A path of loving devotion often expressed through chanting, prayer, meditation, selfless service, things that purify the mind and heart. His energy is all-pervading, everything rests in him, but it requires this conscious, purified engagement, a transcendental, loving attitude to truly perceive this pervasive divine energy.
So it's about cultivation, active participation, not just casual observation or, intellectual understanding. It's a path of purification. And the Quran, it reinforces this idea of an omnipresent and omnipotent God, stating, "To him belongs all that find rest by day or night. He is all-hearing, omniscient." This emphasizes both his immense power over all creation and his intimate awareness of every single thing within it, from the grandest galaxy down to the smallest thought.
This isn't some distant, detached deity, but a divine presence that is both vast and incredibly personal, leaving no part of existence outside of that divine notice.
And this blending, this mix of transcendent and immanent views across these different traditions, it suggests a remarkably complex, multifaceted understanding. It's not in either situation, it's very much both hand. The divine is simultaneously beyond all comprehension, utterly other, and intimately woven into the very fabric of our inner and outer worlds. This nuanced view acknowledges the mystery while still offering diverse paths to connection, whether that's through inward reflection, devoted service, or even a kind of surrender to ultimate unknowing. It avoids those rigid definitions, allows for a more expansive and personal understanding of God, or ultimate reality, makes it a living, breathing concept, really.
Okay, so if ultimate reality is both everything and nothing, within and without,
Wow.
then what's our role in all of this? How do we navigate this complex, beautiful, sometimes bewildering reality? Particularly in our day-to-day lives, it feels like a huge task. Where do we even begin our own journey of self-discovery, of transformation?
Well, the core seems to boil down to awareness and choice. Specifically, awareness of our internal state and the choices we make moment by moment. Eckhart Tolle's The Power of Now highlights a really profound truth here. The greater part of human pain is unnecessary. It is self-created as long as the unobserved mind runs your life. This unobserved mind, that's the incessant stream of thoughts, judgments, emotional reactions that we often unconsciously identify with, right? We just let them dictate our experience. The resistance to the now, to present moment reality, and our constant mental escape from the present, these are identified as primary sources of suffering. It's really about becoming an observer of your own mind, rather than being run by its often chaotic, often fear-driven narratives.
So, stopping the mental chatter, or at least noticing it, and truly being present, that's key. That's a huge shift from how most of us operate, isn't it? Constantly planning, worrying, replaying the past.
Gary Zukov's The Seat of the Soul emphasizes this further. It explains that consciousness actually introduces choice into creation. And our attention, they literally shape our experiences and reality. Which means if you consistently focus on negativity, for example, you are actively drawing that lower frequency energy towards you. It's not just passive observation. It's an active, ongoing process of co-creation with the universe, where our inner state directly influences our outer experience.
Exactly. Our choices aren't just personal, they seem to have these cosmic reverberations. And Conversations with God puts it very directly. We create who you are over and over again in every single moment through these choices. The master in this context is the one who consistently makes the highest choice, the one aligned with love, growth, the greatest good for all. While the student is often unpredictable, swayed by fear or external pressures. This directly links our moment-to-moment choices to our spiritual evolution. It states quite powerfully that a life lived from fear speaks a lie about you. Because our true nature, our divine essence, is love, not fear. Our choices become these constant self-declarations, affirming or denying our authentic being.
Wow, that's a powerful statement, that our fear-driven choices are a lie about our true nature. It implies this fundamental goodness within us that we often betray, or maybe just forget. Sam Harris in Waking Up adds that the truth is simply, it is always now. Always. And yet, we spend most of our lives forgetting this truth, overlooking it, fleeing it, repudiating it. This leads to that cycle, doesn't it? Constant craving for something more, something different, followed by boredom once we attain it. Always seeking something outside the present moment. It's a fundamental misdirection of our attention that just perpetuates suffering. Just think about a time you were so focused on a future event, good or bad, that you completely missed the joy, or maybe just the peace of the present moment. Maybe you were so anxious about a big presentation that you couldn't even enjoy your morning coffee, or so excited for a vacation that the whole journey there was just a blur of impatience. These texts are really talking about the profound cost of not being present, the richness of life that simply passes us by because our minds are always somewhere else, lost in the past or projecting into the future. It's a call to reclaim our most valuable asset, our attention, right here, right now.
And the fifth agreement, building on that Toltec wisdom, provides a very practical application for navigating this mental landscape, especially the challenges of interaction. Don't take anything personally. Now, this isn't about being indifferent or cold. It's about understanding that everyone is living in their own movie. They're perceiving the world through the lens of their unique beliefs, their wounds, their assumptions. When you truly grasp this, that others' actions, words, opinions often stem from their internal world, not from anything inherently about you, you are freed from so much psychological suffering, just immense relief. This allows you to actually see your authentic self, maybe accept your own divinity, rather than constantly seeking validation or being defined by external reactions. It's a profound release from the burden of external validation and those perceived attacks.
This knowledge, then, it really empowers you, doesn't it, to consciously shift your focus and your experience. It's about becoming a more deliberate co-creator of your reality, rather than just a passive recipient of whatever your unobserved mind or external circumstances throw at you. It's about taking true agency over your inner landscape, choosing presence, choosing love, choosing not to internalize others' dramas. It really sounds like a big part of this journey involves getting out of our own way, or maybe more accurately, getting out of the ego's way. The ego, with its demands, its self-centered narratives, its constant need for validation, it often seems like the biggest hurdle to genuine spiritual progress, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Transcending the ego is a central, almost universal theme across so many spiritual traditions. It's everywhere. A Course in Miracles, for example, describes the ego as treacherous only to those who think they are its host. It demands sacrifice. It's inseparable from attack and fear. It's essentially this thought system built on separation, guilt, and a desperate need to defend its false identity. Recognizing this, understanding its nature, makes the ego homeless. It effectively disempowers it because you see its illusory nature, its deep roots in fear. It's not really about destroying the ego, perhaps, but seeing through its delusions and withdrawing belief from its constant narratives.
That's such a strong image, making the ego homeless. It suggests a deliberate, conscious act of disengagement from that constant mental voice. St. John of the Cross, in Dark Night of the Soul, details this difficult, often excruciating process. He describes the dark night as a purgation of sensual desires, passions, self-will, a period of spiritual dryness, inner torment. But this aridity, this discomfort, he explains, it's a necessary process where God strips away all the attachments, the false consolations, leading ultimately to spiritual liberty and union with God. It's a refining fire, strengthening the soul and virtues. Not punishment, but a radical cleansing.
Exactly. And this rigorous self-denial, this detachment, as you also see in St. Teresa of Avila's interior castle, isn't about self-punishment or seeking pain for its own sake. Rather, it's about aligning our will with God's will, understanding that our egoic desires often lead us astray. She explains that trials in spiritual aridity, these dark nights, are often divine dispensations, gifts even in a strange way. They help us grow, discern true divine gifts from distractions, deepen our humility and commitment. It's a purposeful stripping away of what isn't essential, a radical simplification to reveal the core truth.
And Theologia Germanica, another profound mystical text, echoes this so strongly. It states that all will apart from God's will, that is, all self-will, is sin, and that man should strive to become as not in himself. Now, that's not a call to self-annihilation in some nihilistic sense, right? It's a profound call to surrender the personal will to the divine will, to act without egoic motivation. It encourages seeking goodness purely for its own sake, not for personal gain or external reward, but from a pure aspiration for goodness itself. It's a call to profound self-effacement, where our actions become channels for something greater than ourselves.
And this resonates so strongly with Buddhist teachings, where the concept of no self or anatta is absolutely fundamental. The Dhammapada states it explicitly. All dhammas are without self, anatta, meaning that understanding and detaching from the illusion of a permanent, separate self is the path of purity. It's the way to liberation from misery. It champions freedom from sensualities, from worldly attachments, as the path to inner purity. And Siddhartha's own journey exemplifies this radical detachment, doesn't it? He renounces not just possessions and his princely life, but his free will, his ego-driven desires, even his friends and teachers, all in search of his own inner voice, his own understanding. He had to empty himself to find enlightenment.
So the struggle against the ego, against attachment, it really appears as a universal spiritual discipline across these incredibly diverse traditions. Though the methods, the terminology, they vary widely from Christian purgation to Buddhist non-self, the underlying goal seems remarkably consistent. Liberation from self-centeredness, from identification with transient desires. It's about finding freedom by letting go of what we mistakenly cling to. Okay, so if we're letting go of ego, letting go of attachment, embracing this process of emptying ourselves, what's left? What drives our interactions with others when we move beyond self-interest? What kind of relationships emerge from this transformed state? How do these texts guide us there?
Well, love and compassion emerge as profoundly central, and not just as fleeting emotions, but as cultivated states of being. Erich Fromm's The Art of Loving makes a powerful argument that true love is an art. It requires effort, discipline, knowledge, not just the passive, often temporary experience of falling in love. He makes this crucial distinction between fleeting infatuation, often rooted in personal need or projection, and the permanent state of being in love, or as we might better say, of standing in love. That implies an active, sustained commitment, doesn't it? an ongoing engagement of will and understanding directed towards another's growth and well-being.
That distinction is absolutely crucial. It's not about the initial spark, that chemistry, but the ongoing work. The conscious choice to cultivate love is a verb, not just a noun. And the Common English Bible, specifically in Luke, provides a profound ethical directive that really challenges conventional human nature. Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for your abusers. This emphasizes a universal, unconditional love that transcends personal preferences or perceived injustices. It pushes boundaries far beyond typical human inclination, doesn't it? It calls for a radical extension of compassion, even to those who actively seek to harm us.
And connecting this to the bigger picture, Conversations with God suggest something quite profound. That all human conflicts, from small interpersonal disputes right up to global wars, stem from a fundamental failure. A failure to eliminate all separations between you and to see another's plight as his own. It concludes that fundamentally, we are all one. And from that deep understanding of interconnectedness, it becomes virtually impossible to find that hurting another feels good. This profound recognition of unity, not just intellectually but experientially, dissolves the very motivation for harm. It shifts our perspective from competition to co-creation, from separation to oneness.
That's a real aha moment right there, isn't it? The root of so many problems is our perceived separation, the illusion that we are fundamentally distinct and isolated from one another. Pema Chodron, the renowned Buddhist teacher, in When Things Fall Apart, speaks of not causing harm, not just physically, but also with our actions, our speech, or our minds. She highlights how our often unexamined need to be right so often leads to anger and aggression. And these are the subtle, insidious seeds of larger conflicts and suffering in the world. It's a call to really observe our internal states and the ways they can subtly harm others, even without any outward action, just through our thoughts, our judgments.
It also speaks to the nature of relationships themselves and the challenges of sustaining them authentically. C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters, with its wonderfully satirical take from a demonic perspective, describes being in love as a curious and usually short-lived experience, and even calls it a parody of an idea that came from the enemy god. This cleverly points to the human tendency for love to be based on fleeting excitement and self-gratification, contrasting it implicitly with a deeper, more enduring commitment. It suggests that true, enduring love from a spiritual perspective requires something much deeper than mere infatuation. It requires a spiritual demand for fidelity, patience, self-sacrifice, things that defy the ego's fleeting desires.
Okay, so we understand the nature of the divine, hopefully a bit better now, and the importance of transforming ourselves, letting go of ego, embracing love. But how do these teachings suggest we actually do this work? The work of self-transformation, of connecting with the divine. What are the practical steps, the tangible methods or practices that allow us to really engage with this inner journey?
Well, almost universally, many traditions point to specific practices for cultivating inner stillness. That stillness is seen as a kind of gateway to deeper awareness and connection. Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi describes spiritual initiation, diksha, which is about dedicating oneself to a path under a master's guidance. It highlights that profound master-disciple relationship, and it emphasizes the importance of meditation and specific Kriya Yoga techniques, breathing exercises, pranayama, mantras designed to purify the subtle energy channels and, crucially, still the mind. The guru's ability to track and guide the disciple's attention is often highlighted as a critical part of accelerating spiritual progress.
Yeah, the emphasis on attention and focus is incredibly clear there. It's not just passively waiting for something to happen, it's an active internal discipline. And the cloud of unknowing, it instructs on this contemplative art, where one deliberately forsakes both good thoughts as evil thoughts, which means letting go not just of distractions, but even of positive thoughts about God, in order to pray not with the mouth, but with a naked intent stretching into God. Let's go. It's about a silent yet ardent encounter, a pure act of will and presence, unburdened by specific mental constructs or desires. You're kind of stripping away everything to meet the divine in pure awareness.
And what's fascinating here is the convergence, again, of these approaches across seemingly disparate traditions. The Philokalia, that collection of Eastern Orthodox mystical texts, speaks of the unceasing invocation of Jesus, often called the Jesus Prayer, combined with watchfulness and sobriety. And this leads, they say, to a spiritual stillness of the heart and intellect. The practice involves repeatedly intoning a short prayer like, Lord Jesus Christ, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner, while focusing attention in the heart area. It's seen as a way of guarding the mind, expelling unwanted thoughts, and creating this constant inner communion, literally transforming the inner landscape.
That guarding the mind. It sounds very similar, actually, to what Deepak Chopra discusses in the 7 Spiritual Laws of Success. He presents stillness as the direct connection to pure potentiality. And he argues that practicing non-judgment is key because it reduces internal turbulence. It squeezes the gap between thoughts, he says. And that gap, that silence between thoughts, is identified as our direct connection to this pure potentiality, to infinite creativity and wisdom. The less internal noise, the clearer the channel.
Indeed. And Tara Brach, in Radical Acceptance, introduces those crucial Buddhist mindfulness practices. It's not about striving to rid oneself of pain or difficult emotions, but rather opening and allowing the changing stream of experience to move through me. This means relating to suffering with care, through loving kindness and compassion, acknowledging what is without judgment rather than resisting it or trying to fix it or escape it, just being present with what is. And Siddhartha himself, the Buddha, famously engaged in hours of meditation to gain that secret knowledge of the self, underscoring the universal value of sustained inward focus and the profound insights it yields.
So whether it's through chanting or quiet contemplation or mindful presence, these practices offer really tangible ways to engage with the inner journey. They provide methods to quiet the mind, focus attention, and cultivate a deeper, more direct connection to the divine within and around us. It's about finding the method, maybe, that resonates with your own inner landscape, knowing that the goal is always towards a profound stillness, a deeper presence. Okay, but beyond personal practice, what about guidance? Is there a role for teachers, mentors, established wisdom traditions in navigating this complex spiritual terrain? Can we really do it all on our own, or do we need some help to discern the true path from potential misdirection?
That's a great question, and the concept of a spiritual master, a guru, is indeed very prominent and often considered essential in many traditions. The Bhagavad Gita, for instance, states quite unequivocally that transcendental life begins when one accepts a bona fide spiritual master. It emphasizes that unalloyed devotional service, bhakti yoga, guided by such a teacher, is the true path to knowledge. The guru is seen as a living embodiment of the teachings, providing the proper guidance, the context, the practical instruction for spiritual understanding that maybe can't be attained just through intellectual speculation or self-study alone. They often act as a bridge, really, between the aspirant and the divine.
So a guide isn't just helpful, but potentially essential for understanding the deeper truth and navigating those inevitable pitfalls. Dietrich Bonhoeffer's The Cost of Discipleship, a really powerful work from a Christian perspective, speaks of Christian principles needing to be translated into human life through responsible love. He views the community of disciples as Christ's sanctuary, a place where faith is lived out and deepened through shared commitment. And he suggests that merely fulfilling the letter of the law isn't enough. One must press toward a higher path, even to love enemies and despise worldly things, as exemplified by Christ's life. This implies a journey beyond just adherence to rules, into a living relational faith that's actively nurtured within a supportive community.
And this raises a really important practical question for any seeker. How do you discern true wisdom from false teachings, or even charlatanry? It's a real concern. The Dhammapada provides a profound criterion here. It defines a Brahma, an enlightened or holy person, not by birth or clan, not by external factors, but by truth and Dhamma, the teaching of the fully enlightened one, and by profound insight. It encourages paying homage to those who teach Dhamma because their wisdom is recognized through its inherent truth, its transformative power, its alignment with universal principles, not external markers like status or power. It's really about the content of their character and their teaching.
And Rumi, the great Sufi mystic in the Masnavi, highlights the importance of God's warners, the prophets. He notes that our imagination was blurred too much by mixing with creation, making us miss deeper truths. We get caught up in the surface level. He even cites Muhammad's prayer, "Show me things as they really are." This speaks to that human tendency to be deluded by worldly perceptions, by our own projections and desires, and the consequent need for divine or enlightened guidance to help us see through these illusions. The true teachers, the prophets, they help us clear our vision, perceive reality with greater clarity, unclouded by the ego.
And finally, the untethered soul speaks to a slightly different, yet I think complementary aspect of guidance. It talks about a personal relationship with an inner force of love that sustains and feeds the heart, replacing fear and pain. This inner guidance, cultivated through spiritual work, becomes deeply personal, a direct line to deeper wisdom that some traditions might call intuition or conscience or the inner voice. It suggests that while external guides are invaluable, ultimately the path must be walked from within. Even a concept like quality in Robert Pirsig's Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, It's described as this mysterious individual internal goal that works beyond purely rational methods. It hints at an intuitive internal compass for truth and value that we have to learn to trust.
So whether it's through formal master-disciple relationships, or the collective support of a community, or the teachings of prophets, or an awakened inner compass, the quest for guidance seems to be a universal thread in the spiritual journey. Think of the various mentors or teachers you've had in your own life, maybe even in secular fields. This concept applies on a spiritual level too, guiding you beyond what you can see or understand alone, towards deeper truths about yourself and the universe. Okay, let's turn to something that feels unavoidable. Challenges. No spiritual journey seems to be without them. In fact, suffering often seems to be an intrinsic part of the human experience. So how do these traditions view suffering? Is it just something to be endured, a punitive force? Or does it serve some deeper, perhaps transformative purpose?
Well, far from being something to merely avoid, suffering is consistently seen across many of these texts as a powerful catalyst for growth, for profound transformation. The Philokalia, for instance, states quite starkly that suffering cleanses the soul infected with the filth of sensual pleasure and detaches it from material things. It even suggests, paradoxically, that God allows the devil to afflict men, but the purpose is to make them conscious of their intellect's nobility and to refine their spiritual nature. It's not about divine cruelty at all, but a painful yet necessary purification, burning away attachments and illusions to reveal a deeper, more resilient self.
A refiner's fire, not just punishment. That's a completely different and yes, challenging way of looking at adversity. St. John of the Cross, as we touched on with the Dark Night, describes this period as full of pains and afflictions, a sense of abandonment, spiritual dryness, even despair. But their explicit purpose, he says, is not to crush the soul, but to illumine it and give it light, to strengthen virtues like faith, hope, charity, and ultimately to lead to union with God. The very discomfort becomes a pathway to enlightenment, a stripping away of all that is not essential, leaving the soul prepared for divine grace.
And this leads potentially to a deeper, more profound freedom, an almost unshakable inner peace. Michael Singer in The Untethered Soul makes this remarkable assertion. When you are comfortable with pain passing through you, you will be free. This world will never be able to bother you again because the worst the world can do is to hit the pain stored within you. That's a radical idea, isn't it? That by no longer resisting or suppressing our pain, by simply allowing it to move through us without attachment, we cease to be tormented by it. He provocatively suggests there's an ocean of love behind all of this fear and pain, implying that once we stop resisting and storing pain, we tap into this underlying wellspring of love and peace that is our true nature.
Wow. Finding freedom through pain, not by avoiding it or suppressing it, but by allowing it to simply be, that is radical. And Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning offers such a stark, real-world example from his experiences in Nazi concentration camps. He noted the crucial need to maintain dignity, and he highlighted the profound value of having experienced suffering as the most real form of life, even in the most inhumane conditions imaginable. He observed that those who found meaning in their suffering, whether it was for a loved one, a future task, or simply the dignity of their own response, were more likely to survive, both physically and spiritually. It's about how we choose to respond to suffering, not merely the fact of it, that defines us.
And this perspective really invites you, the listener, to reevaluate your own relationship with discomfort and challenge. Instead of seeing suffering as solely negative, these texts encourage us to consider its potential as a profound teacher, a pathway to deeper spiritual understanding and liberation. It's a call to conscious engagement with adversity, not just passive endurance, knowing that within every challenge lies an opportunity for profound growth.
And then, what about the ultimate unknown? Death. For so many, it's the source of profound fear, anxiety, the ultimate end. How do these deep dives help us understand death? Perhaps even embrace it rather than fear it?
Yeah.
Do they offer a different narrative than the finality we often perceive?
Many sources indeed challenge our conventional fear of death by radically reframing its meaning. They transform it from an ending into a transition. The Untethered Soul, again, argues that death gives meaning to life. It is your friend, your liberator. That is a powerful reorientation. It suggests that by fully living each moment, by embracing the totality of our experience, we can overcome the fear of death. This fear, it argues, stems largely from craving life, from a sense of things left undone or experiences missed. By being fully present and authentically alive in each moment, the fear of missing out, and thus the fear of death, naturally diminishes.
So, death isn't an end, but a call to truly live the present, to fully engage with life. It paradoxically intensifies our appreciation for every single moment. Conversations with God delves into this by stating directly, You cannot not exist. That challenges the very notion of annihilation. It speaks of reincarnation as real, purposeful, and perfect, with souls having the option to start over or recycle, to continue their evolution and learning. It also describes the universe itself as cyclical, the breathing in and breathing out of God, meaning all things eventually return to pure energy. It's a grand cosmic cycle of existence, expansion, contraction, renewal. There's no true end, only transformation.
And for some traditions, there's even a guide for this transition, the Tibetan Book of the Dead, that profound and ancient text. It offers a specific, quite intricate framework for the soul's journey after physical death through various intermediate states, or bardos. It describes the experiences one might encounter the Chikai Bardo at the moment of death, encountering the clear light of reality, and the Chernid Bardo, experiencing reality as a succession of visions. And it emphasizes the recognition of enlightened intention and the practice of mindfulness as a path to liberation during these states. This suggests a continuation and transformation of consciousness, not absolute cessation. It provides a detailed map, really, for what might lie beyond the physical realm, offering guidance for conscious dying and rebirth.
These diverse perspectives seem to unite, then, in viewing death not as an annihilation, but as a transition, part of a larger ongoing process of existence and spiritual evolution. It's a fundamental shift from an ending to a transformation, which can radically alter how we approach our lives, can't it? Encouraging us to live more fully, more consciously, and maybe without the paralyzing grip of existential fear. Okay, bringing it all together now, what's the ultimate takeaway for our daily lives from these profound insights? Insights into the divine, self-transformation, suffering, death. How can we apply this ancient and modern wisdom in a practical, meaningful way today, beyond just the abstract ideas?
Well, ultimately, I think it's about finding enduring purpose and joy, and doing that by building a life of substance, of intentionality, and alignment with these deeper truths. Henry David Thoreau's Walden speaks to living sincerely and working deliberately. Building a life that is calculated to endure a long time, metaphorically like a well-built chimney that remains standing even after the house around it is gone. It's about crafting a life with a genuine inner foundation, rather than just superficial pursuits that crumble under pressure. It's a call to live with deep purpose and integrity, resisting those currents of conformity and superficiality.
That's such a powerful image, building a life with intention and substance, where every action contributes to a larger, meaningful whole that can withstand the tests of time and circumstance. Theologia Germanica encapsulates this pursuit so beautifully. Whosoever seeketh, loveth, and pursueth goodness as goodness, and for the sake of goodness, he will find the highest good. It emphasizes seeking goodness not for personal gain, not for external reward, but from a pure aspiration, an unselfish love for goodness itself. It's like an internal compass guiding us toward what's inherently right and true, rather than just what is expedient or self-serving.
And ultimately, as the Fifth Agreement states, in such a wonderfully direct and liberating way, you are here to enjoy life. You are not here to suffer over your drama or your personal importance. You are here to be a dreamer, to be an artist, to be a seer. This really empowers you, the listener, doesn't it? To shed the burdens of ego and external pressures and to live a life of purpose, creativity, inner vision, recognizing your inherent capacity to shape your experience and contribute meaningfully to the world. It's an invitation to embrace your authentic, divine self, not as some heavy duty, but as a joyful expression of your true nature.
Wow. We've journeyed through a truly remarkable landscape of thought today, exploring the nature of the divine, from that transcendent one to the intimate presence right here within us. We've delved into the challenges of the ego, the liberation found in embracing suffering, and a reimagined, often cyclical, understanding of death itself.
And this deep dive really reveals that the quest for self, spirit, ultimate reality. It's a profoundly personal experience, yet it's also universally shared. The methods, the terminology, the specific traditions might differ widely, but that underlying yearning for truth, for connection, for liberation, it truly unites us across time and cultures. It highlights this incredible tapestry of human spiritual endeavor.
So what does this all mean for you personally? As you reflect on this conversation, maybe consider which of these paths, these ideas, or these practices resonates most deeply with your own inner journey right now. Which insights sparked a recognition within you? And which ones maybe challenged your deepest assumptions?
Yeah, we encourage you to reflect on what stillness or pure potentiality might mean in your own life and how you could perhaps cultivate it. Or consider how you might apply that principle of not taking anything personally to find greater peace, greater freedom in your daily interactions. How might that transform your relationships, your sense of self?
Your deep dive into these profound questions is really just beginning. What will you explore next? And how will these timeless insights shape the story that you choose to tell with your own life?